Okay. Are we live, Chair? Okay, welcome everybody. Usual preamble, the Scrutiny Committee meeting is being conducted on a hybrid basis in accordance with the Local Government Elections Wales Act 2021, which will operate alongside the Council Standing Orders. Council Standing Orders and Code of Conduct apply at all times, and members should conduct themselves accordingly. A recorded version of this meeting will be uploaded for public viewing as soon as possible after the meeting. Welsh translation of the proceedings can be provided upon request. The images and sound recording may also be used for training purposes within the council. Okay, Performance Scrutiny Committee plays in corporate, and we are discussing the council's library strategy 2026 to 2029. Item 1, do we have any apologies for absence?
Apologies, Chair, from Councillor Mackie, Tim and Councillor Linton.
Fantastic. Any other apologies to note? Apologies from Paul Jones?
Paul's service level meeting at the same time. So.
Apologies from Paul as well.
Apologies from Paul.
Any declarations of interest from any members? Okay. Item 3 then is Newport City Council Library Strategy 2026 to 2029. Councillor Hughes, I don't know if you want to say anything or hand straight over. Entirely up to you.
I just start by saying, obviously you'll be aware we've gone through a very difficult time in libraries generally in the nation over the last sort of 10-15 years. I'm hoping the report you'll find a positive one. For me it's about a strong recovery, certainly in Newport. We're very much focusing on what you'd expect us to focus on, which is that literacy sort of element. There's a various range of programmes throughout. I'm branching out into a much more varied programme as well around the activities that we do in the libraries. They're an incredible staff group. I've got to say that really, they're incredibly passionate. I've got certainly a bookworm sort of reputation. I love books that come from a very rural background. They open up the world for me personally as a child. And I sort of something I value greatly, really, that sort of ability for reading books, literature to open up places that you maybe never visit, maybe never see, but be able to touch. I think that's what comes through in the staff group as well. They get that, and I hope the report reflects that. Someone else says.
Great, thank you. So I'm just going to give a very, very brief introduction and pass on to Alan, who's our community. I can never read your title. So Libraries, Learning and Community Asset Service Manager, and Mark, who's our library manager. But before I pass on to just a couple of key points to introduce, I think the first thing to say is, and sometimes easy to forget this, libraries are a statutory service, and we've got a statutory obligation to provide an efficient service that's available for everyone who wants to make use of them. And what we have seen, as you probably are aware, is over the last kind of 5 to 10 years, a change in how people are using the library service, and also a change in what we're offering. And one of the key things that we've been really focused on over the last, 2 to 3 years now, is really thinking about how we can make the library service fit for purpose and reach as many people as possible. And we've been doing that through what we call a community-led libraries approach, which is really trying to get out into communities. It's not just about buildings with books now, it's about a service that can genuinely try and reach out to people and bring them in and give them access to the variety of services that we can offer. And really this strategy is tying that all together and thinking about where we go next with that piece of work, really focused on enabling us to maximise the impact and the reach of the library service across the city, maintaining people who really use the libraries well, but also reaching kind of new parts of the community, and particularly young people and children. You've seen in the media kind of with the reports around the decline of reading for pleasure and the impact that can have on attainment. So anyway, I'll stop rabbiting on that and I'll pass over to the experts to come and go through the strategy in detail. So Alan,
afternoon everyone. Just pick up some of the points David just mentioned.
libraries are a statutory service under the 1964 Libraries Act. How that is managed in Wales is monitored through the Welsh Public Library Standards, which are two main elements, some quality indicators, and then also core entitlements. In the last Welsh Public Library Standard, we submitted 24-25. Newport Libraries met 3 of the 5 quality indicators or targets, partially met 1, did not meet 1 of them. And of the core entitlements, we met 11, partially met 1, did not meet 1 of them. That core entitlement we didn't meet was core entitlement 12, which is for library services to Wales to provide access to their library service strategy. It's a number of years since we did write the last strategy, and we've been putting this together over the last year, very well aware that we did hit the core entitlement. It's been a key part of our service strategy for this year.
We just so I can catch you up on the slides. So that's all right. No problem. See if we can get it on. I think you were talking on slides, but they weren't on the screen. So sorry.
Well, are we on the way right now?
Yeah, move to the next one now.
Can you make it bigger, Simon?
Yes.
So our current core offer in our libraries in Newport is as described there on the screen. We've the central library, which is 41 hours per week. It's got an extensive events programme. There's also the base for our large open studies collection. Full-time libraries in Bettishrim and Rogerstone, 36 hours per week, again, an events and activities programme. Our part-time libraries can be at Trevina House. We're developing a stronger events and activities programme from that. That is part of the strategy, is building on what we've currently got, and the team has committed in this last year to ensuring there's at least 1 weekly session at libraries. We've opened up in the last year 2 pop-up libraries. They're based in community-led buildings, which provide access to items that may be requested online, and also a small selection of curated stock, and allow residents then to return books to those spaces as well. And we're looking at options for expansion as part of our strategy. And then a growing area of our provision over the last 10 years, but particularly since COVID, is the development and use of the digital service. The digital service provides 24/7 access to reader material, information, a large selection of e-books which are provided in partnership with the Welsh Government, and also this year the press reader for the digital magazines. And the last element of core service is the home delivery service, which is supported by volunteers, and that's delivering book items primarily to residents who may be able to visit a physical library. The strategy is moving forward on the basis of that core offer staying in place as it is, and as David mentioned, the strategy then is about the community-led approach, how we are building a whole service view of how a library can provide, not just the bricks and mortar library service points. So the main principles of which are proactively working in our communities and developing community groups, developing relationships with community groups in the city. That engagement then helps us to shape our delivery of events and activities in libraries, but also allows us to go out into other non-library venues. As I manage the community assets, that gives us the opportunity to go and we're exploring now what we can offer from the space, such as Nice Glass, for example, where they may not have a library, traditionally haven't had a library, but we can still look to run some reading literacy events there. A key element of the strategy is that partnership approach, building with those community education organisations, but especially the Newport schools. Last summer we had Mark and his team had excellent results around the engagement with the schools in summer reading challenge, highest participation numbers we've seen. And another example project is we're helping to support the schools in development of their reading cafes programme. We would then also be looking to maintain the importance of the digital offer, continuing to invest in that as appropriately to meet that growing and developing need. Mark, are you happy to take forward the?
Yeah. I think really, as Alan and David have alluded to, the community-led approach really places the community at the heart of informing the services that we provide. And ultimately, as you can see on the slide, we're aiming through the strategy to highlight the innovation that's inherent in the approach that we take in Newport. Obviously underpinning all of the innovation, as you can see, are the core offers within any library service really, but primarily reading and literacy, the importance of the digital services to the core offer, largely because we've seen such exponential growth with our digital access and our digital collections. And then of course, by engaging with the community directly, we're able to draw more people into the libraries and thus to the programmes that we're putting on in response to the services and the programmes that they've asked for. So we've seen exponential growth in our programme participation over the course of the last year that's far exceeded our target. So I think that sort of reinforces the value of the approach that we're taking, in that if we're responding to the community, or at least the community stated needs, we provide more of what they're asking for, and then more people are actually coming to those programmes, then it's a win-win for everybody, really. And I guess through the mission and the vision statement, we're just trying to encapsulate that within the strategy. So, you know, I won't read it for you, but ultimately the mission is just about trying to ensure that we are encapsulating what we're doing on a daily basis within a few sentences, really. Okay. There are 4 strategic themes that are going to underpin those, that mission and the vision statement. Of course, access is around the physical and the digital access. I think underpinning all of it is ensuring that the responsiveness to the community stated needs is as inclusive as possible. And we want to ensure that we're engaging with people in whichever format and whichever forum they wish to participate. So whether that's through the recently concluded customer satisfaction surveys, the non-user surveys, whether it's online, whether it's through our digital app, or whether it's in person, we're trying to ensure that we're facilitating as many opportunities as possible for that community engagement. And that includes in non-traditional library settings, as Alan's mentioned as well. We want to, the second strategic objective, as you can see there, is to ensure that we are providing access to as much cultural and core service offer as possible within a sustainable environment, because of course, you know, sustainability is key both in a whole host of ways, whether it's economic sustainability, whether it's service sustainability, or whether it's green sustainability. We want to ensure that the environment that we provide our services is as sustainable as possible. Maybe if we move on to the third one, innovation, really, I think that's where we excel. I don't want to sound like I'm being overly conceited, but I think the approach that we've taken over the last 3 years within Newport is particularly innovative, and we're leading the field in a whole host of areas. Alan's alluded to the fact that last year we had a really strong showing of the Summer Reading Challenge based on the fact that the staff were able to engage with all of the 44 schools that were eligible to participate. 40 of those 44 schools actually had pupils that completed the challenge, which is the highest participation rate that we've ever had. And as a result of those successes last year, this year, we were one of a handful, I think only 5 library authorities across the UK that received a grant from the Julia Rosling Trust in order to be able to supplement the author visits that we have. So we've got an additional £5,000 this year just to pay for author visits targeted at socially excluded communities. So our launched this year will be in Bettis, and we're taking over the square between the community centre and the library, and we're having steel bands and lots of fun activities around the theme, which is music this year. And then, of course, development. I think development underpins everything that we do within the library service, in that we're always constantly developing our approach, whether that approach is through the collections, the services, or the programmes that we provide. We want to ensure that we're constantly evolving and constantly developing those services as a direct result of that community feedback. And I guess key to any strategy, certainly for the library staff, is helping them to operationalise some of those strategic aims, because I think when you talk to the staff about a strategy and what strategic aims are, sometimes their eyes glaze over, because it's not something that they use on a daily basis. So being able to operationalise the key strategic things into 14 action areas that tie back to the Welsh Public Library Standards, and involving those in the development of those action items, means that they're able to easily understand what it is that they're doing and how what they're doing feeds into upholding and delivering on the strategy. So there are a couple of key case studies from last year that I just want to highlight. So if you bear with me a second, because my computer is hopefully logged me out while I've been speaking. So the first of which, and again, Alan's mentioned this in brief, but shared language erosion, if anyone is familiar with that term, results in children. Actually, if you could just go back to that would be brilliant. Bless you, thank you. So shared language erosion results in children from multilingual families losing their ability to converse, to read and write in their family's native language. But reading and writing bilingually has been shown to be key to the success of keeping native languages alive. However, parents often struggle with reading and writing in English, and are thus even less likely to read with their children at home, which then inevitably means their children are less likely to be reading overall. So, of course, to help come to this, Newport Libraries implemented our inaugural reading cafe at St Patrick's Primary School, and these photos were taken at that event in November 2024, in which parents read with their children for the last hour of the school day. And whilst parents from all families are welcome, the primary focus is on multilingual families. During the sessions, the library and the school provide bilingual children's books for families to read together. So while the parent may only read in their native language, the child then reads back the same story in English. St Patrick's has now been part of the programme for almost 18 months, and both teachers and families have noted their children's reading skills have improved in both languages. If you could just go to the next, that's brilliant. Thus leading to more reading at home. 17 schools, now largely self-sufficient, are subsequently delivering the reading cafes across Newport. And of course, Newport Libraries will be developing additional reading cafes within libraries and in some of those community centres that Alan's referenced, including the Community Association in Hill. And to further support the initiative, we successfully sourced grants of just in excess of £30,000 last year to enhance collections in languages other than English. And these are quotes just from 3 of the children that participated in the Reading Cafe in St Patrick's. And then the second case study is the pollinator garden at Rogerstone, where I was this morning to arrange for it to be moon, so that's fun. So as a result of the Keep Wales Tidy grant, which we received in 2024, the garden at Rogerstone Library was transformed into a new pollinator garden between October and May 2025. The pollinator garden was designed in partnership with NCC's biodiversity teams and Keep Wales Tidy, incorporating over 100 new trees, a pond with various wildlife and insect species, numerous pollinator plant species, and a new composting bed and habitats for insects, including hedgehogs and bats, being installed. The partnership with Coleg Went has resulted in learners within the Independent Living programme leading on the development of the garden as part of their learning. And this is being overseen by their gardening programme tutors and initially the Keep Wales Tidy officers as well. So the pollinator garden was open to the public in June 2025, with the opening also officially launching last year's Summer Reading Challenge. The garden is going to be open to members of the library to use during the summer months, and staff have already delivered a number of outdoor programmes from there. And currently, to further increase the reach of the garden, we were successful in obtaining a capital grant from the Welsh Government to install a fully accessible ramp, which is now scheduled for completion in mid-July. I think that's it from me. There's some feedback from some of the people who attended the launch, and it's quite a mixed bag. David was there, Alan was there. It was quite a good afternoon. Oh, Jason was there as well, of course. A number of other councillors, Yvonne Farsi was there, Councillor Reynolds. So it was a good day, I think. Oh, and of course, yes, looking ahead. In the first year of full implementation of community-led philosophy, we appointed a community librarian. We realigned library roles and functions to have a greater focus on community engagement. And as a result of those things, we've been able to source a whole host of external grant funding. The most recent being another Welsh Government grant fund, which is allowing us to create the geocaching app. This is the mock-up of the front screen. You're the first people to see this, so it's very exciting. The geocaching app, the intent behind it is to digitise some of our local history collection with a view to taking the local history collection out into the community so that it's no longer contained just within the Central Library's four walls. And the content that we are digitising in the first round of grant funding is being selected by 10 community groups. The primary focus is to focus on marginalised and socially excluded communities and the contributions they've made to Newport's local history. And we're in the sort of second phase of development. The plan then is across the city we'll have walking and running tours where locations that are of relevance to the people and the things that we are digitising are pinned on those maps, so that when you walk to pinned location 1, for instance, a whole host of information is released about whatever it is that we're focusing on there. But to further support that and to make it a truly intergenerational thing, we've been working with the schools so that they are writing stories for children about the same content, so that the children can be reading about whatever it is that pinned location 1 is informing the parents of. And that, of course, comes from our local history collection. As a result of this, we've also been asked by the People's Collection Wales, which is the National Libraries of Wales website that focuses on local history collections across Wales. They've asked us to develop a dedicated page just for the app, so that there's the app and then also there's a website that people can go to. So we will be launching this in October. We're also partnering with some local businesses to try and incentivise people to come into the city centre, and they'll be offering discounts of up to 30% on the products and services that they provide. So it's just another way to get people into the city centre, I guess. And then another key project that's coming up, and this is probably the big one, if you just go to the next slide. Oh, actually, maybe it's not there, but I should tell you this. One of the other big projects that's coming up is that we've just been the recipient of a capital grant from the Welsh Government to refurbish the Children's Library at Central. So that will be launched in September, in March of next year. Sorry, was I supposed to let you say that?
No, we were just checking whether we could say that. So it's great. We clearly can. Yeah.
Well, yes. So what I should say is that the Welsh Government haven't officially announced it yet because of the delay in the outcome of the elections. I guess they were supposed to have announced it on May the 1st. They still haven't announced it, but yeah, I've said it now.
They have now.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So hopefully that presentation has just given a sense of what the strategy is about, what we've begun delivering already and where we want to be going, and giving you a flavour of the type of things that we wanted to achieve over the coming years. So, Chair, let's say table, we'll open up to questions.
Yep, fantastic. Councillor Morford.
Yeah, I might have some questions later on, but I just want to open this up by saying it looks like a very exciting strategy, and you're pushing boundaries, pushing out. You know, when we think of libraries traditionally, you know, going back in the years, they were just somewhere you went to learning to read books, and you're keeping up with the times and you're pushing on. And I think that needs to be commended.
Yes, just to follow up on Councillor Mofford's words, it's a very ambitious strategy. I've got a couple of questions regarding the budget though. The annual budget in the report is just under 1 million per year. How is this strategy going to impact that budget?
So it won't impact the budget at all. That's the core budget. I think what Mark, as you've seen, has been really successful in doing is identifying opportunities to enhance our delivery through grant funding options. So that could be, you know, going to apply for Welsh Government capital grant or other external grants, or it can also be working either within housing communities or within other parts of the council to use other grant funding opportunities.
That was going to be my follow-up question about grant funding. So how reliant, we're heavily reliant if this grant funding doesn't go through, part of this strategy going to fall apart?
So I think the overall strategy won't, no, because we've aligned and we've got the colleagues in community vocations really focused on that impact and taking the library kind of out of the building. So that, and again, that's a piece of work Mark and Alan have really led on. That's now embedded as a philosophy, is what we do. The community outreach librarian as well, their role is core funded, so we'll always continue to kind of have that sort of more strategic capacity to be reaching out and doing that work. I suppose where we are reliant on grant funding is for things like the geocaching app, for example, which is new and innovative and just requires that support to get it off the ground. But I think what we have demonstrated, even just with the summer reading challenge, is that if you start delivering and you can show impact, then that does open up other opportunities outside to access grant funding.
Thanks, Councillor. Geocaching, that's not going to be a public term for the album, presumably?
No, we need to think about that. I was thinking that as I was saying geocaching.
One of the things that we're trying to do is engage with schools as much as possible in the development of that app. So as well as the creative writing sessions, and it's all linked in with the development of the central library as well, in that we're trying to engage them to come up with suggestions for what that children's space looks like, but also what the new library cards look like. So we'll be doing a children's library card campaign, but also for the geocaching, what we're actually going to call it. So we're open to suggestions from as many schools as possible. So watch this space on it.
Any other questions? Any other councillors?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thank you for the report. Yeah, very interesting. I work at College Gwent, so I'm fortunate to have a library right outside my door, which I use regularly. So I don't often use the library, but I'm using it more now these days. And the report does sort of focus mainly on digital, developments into digital. I think there is still a call for physical books. I mean, I spoke to the library staff at college, and just under 40% of borrowing is non-academic, so students are actually borrowing books. And Bookstone's still doing well in High Street, the work's still doing well in High Street, so there is that type of books there. And now in your survey, the bus survey, 1,000 people asked that survey, which is amazing. You never get this response on any sort of survey. And 46 said they didn't have the time to read. Not they didn't want to read, but they didn't have the time to read. So it feels less like, not like a lack of demand, but a gap that we're not reaching those people maybe. And you do go on quite a lot about marketing digital, so it's not what we're doing to actually market, in this. I got this in the library from Newport. It's fantastic. I mean, you can't compare that to holding a Kindle. Brilliant. Graphic novels. Went to college, so went down the library, got some of these. Fantastic book. So what are we doing I know you do these outreach ones where I say work with college and members of libraries come in and give free books out. And the last one's called The Last Bench, and quick reads. But just digital's work all very well and good, but what we let's not diminish the stock as well. That'd be my concern.
Absolutely, I've got a couple of points too. So I think things like summer reading challenge, which you've spoken about a lot, is core to that, because it's getting kids using the library stock over the summer to maintain their level of reading over the summer. I think as well, what we've also done is identified opportunities to invest in new stock, particularly in community languages, so that people who maybe English or Welsh using their first language can still access physical books. And alongside that, as well as the outreach stuff, we've probably not actually spoken enough about it. There's been some really nice projects to bring people into the libraries to have that engagement, to really show off the stock. So an example of that would have been a group that Mark set up to work with children from Ukraine on a kind of creative writing group that then showcased the stock, etc., etc. Do you want to add to that?
Yeah. So I think the two are interlinked, if I'm being completely honest, in that time being the primary constraint for those 5 to 6 people. That does allow us to focus on digital to be able to counter their lack of time to be able to come into the physical space for the physical books. But to pick up on what David's referencing, I think key to the reduced literacy rates and key to supporting that reduction in reading for pleasure amongst children. Over the course of the last 2 years, we've done a number of things to try and ensure that the future generation of readers are comfortable with and actually more than comfort, but actually enthused about the library service, right? And so, as Alan mentioned in his presentation, for the first time in a number of years, we've got at least one story club in every single branch library once a week, right? So that's a way of bringing parents in, bringing their children in, getting them used to the concept of reading. And we're seeing significant uptick as a result of that. But most impactfully, that summer reading challenge, to have 40 schools actually have children finish the competition or finish the challenge over the course of last summer, that's a significant increase on the year prior, and it's resulted in those kids actually actively engaging with the library service on a continued basis. So again, just to give you some examples, over the course of last summer, we had the 3rd highest active cardhold rate of all 22 library authorities in Wales, right? We don't have anywhere near that level of funding, but we do have that level of participation. So I think, we have to be realistic in what we can achieve and how far we allocate our resources and allocate our time. And so our intent in marketing the services is really getting to that younger reader so that they become lifelong readers and lifelong users of the library service. But I do think in that specific instance around those 4 to 6 people who've referenced the fact that they have a lack of time, digital is key to engaging them with reading because it means that they can access it wherever they are, whenever they are.
Did you want to come in on that, producing or?
Yeah, I was I was going to just go back to what you were saying about a well-known bookshop, let's say. And what they were saying was it's quite interesting what's happening in that world, really, because I thought that it would be the older people still buying books, the younger people not. The drive is very much by that teenage age group into buying books, physical books. They actually like the physical books, the covers, the artwork. So there's something quite interesting going on there, I think. A lot of, I have big arguments with my son with creative writing, but he'll buy the physical books and I'll be moving more towards digital because eyesight, because of, it's handy for driving when you're driving big distances, you put a book on. So that's helped me read more than I probably usually would. But what you're seeing with the young ones, I think, in certain categories, not all categories, obviously, but certain categories, you're seeing being certainly found out in the recent elections much better informed, because they're getting their news stories from lots of different sources as well, and they're reading a lot wider than certain age groups. So I think there's a lot of positive stuff out there. You know, it's a good news story potentially. I genuinely thought the bookshop stores would crash after COVID. You know, I thought that many other businesses, but I think, you know, I think that younger generation is holding and building on it. And I think what's great about the library, I think, at the moment, is that the more that they can bring those young people in, then they're strengthening what's happening, I think, in the communities in any case. And I think it's, you know, it's good stories in between all the difficult stuff.
Yeah, thanks for your answer. So, just thinking ahead then, so next year there's the proposed social media ban for under 16-year-olds. So how are we going to catch those people to try and, you know, stop doom scrolling and keep in mind the books, I think, and how we, is the advertising those more, you know, how it's kind of promoting it? Like, I don't see pictures inside the bus or anything like that, or how physical marketing strategies to get into really.
I think, and this is not just in a Newport specific thing, I think libraries generally are much better at engaging with people, and the community engagement strategy that we're employing and seeing exponential results as a result of that. So what we're really keen to do is market the service through those interactions, rather than relying on a marketing campaign, if you like, that has some initial success, but doesn't necessarily have long-term engagement as a result. I think we're on the ground floor of that sort of community engagement, regularly interacting with socially excluded, marginalised communities, but the community in general, just to get a sense of what it is that they want from us, right? And this statistic, I think, should speak to how impactful that approach is being when we think about our target for programme participation last year was 16,000 people. In the same year, we actually achieved over 36,000 people participating in our programmes, right? So I'm particularly proud of that number because I think it really does speak to the efficacy of the approach that we're taking and making sure that more people, or as many people as possible, are actually engaging with our services. So does that reassure you, I guess?
Yeah.
Councillor Cleverly.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to say I really welcome this strategy, as I'm a very keen supporter of the library. I'm there every week. The staff are absolutely brilliant. When I was in uni a few years ago, the staff there, I used to ask them to find me books, and they did. And even now, only last week, I asked them to find me some books of this new author I discovered. And I had an email from Lion, and this week, saying they found so many books for me. So can't fault the librarians at all. They're absolutely brilliant. And also that they do, in half term, they had workshops there for young people, the reading groups, as you just said. And I know they also send books over to our old age pensioners in the home across the road as well, which, you know, which is brilliant for them. But I look forward to seeing this new strategy with online and whatever. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Screen.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'm pleased to see in the strategy it's community focused, community led. I think that's really important. And I would like to thank the library for help and support they've given when we set up the Friends of Strategaeth House Library, you know, which is a really community focused organisation to try and increase footfall and use of the library at Strategaeth House. I know that people involved in the Friends are very appreciative of the support and help that they've been given, and I hope that will continue on to the future. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Councillor. Councillor.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I was actually thinking, where's my nearest library branch? And I live in Langstone, so I'm thinking it's Ringland. And that raises a general question. How many library branches, if that's the right terminology, are there in Newport? And how far are people from their nearest library, on average, should we say?
There are 7 libraries.
Can you list them off the top of your head?
Yes, Central, Central, Bettis, Finland, Rogerstone, and Killian, Malpas, and Treehouse. We don't have the information exactly how far away everybody is. As part of our public library standards, we have to report on the percentage of people within 2 miles or 20 minutes, and that is. What's the date that's been on that mark?
I don't know the answer. So.
We hit that target, Welsh Public Library standards, but we can certainly supply that information.
And as a school governor, I was wondering, the synergy you have with schools, is there anything else to build on? Is it in the right place?
Yeah, I think we have we've certainly nurtured that relationship over the course of the last 2 years, and we've my team, or our team, I guess, have been really good at allocating each individual school within their area of responsibility to go out and build a relationship on the ground floor. Myself and the community librarian have been integral to developing a relationship with Rebecca Sims, who's the assistant head of education, and we go on a regular basis to the FEO network meetings to talk about things that we're doing, to encourage participation from as many schools as possible, and to get the head teachers engaged with what we're doing. And recent examples of where that has proven that relationship has proven invaluable, I guess, is that we were able to source books for every child and every school that participated in the Youth Council, and the next Youth Council meeting is going to be taking place in the Central Library on the day when the library is closed. So I think we built a really strong partnership with the schools that's resulted in us having much more access to school children, and the school children having much more engagement with the library service as a result. And I think one thing that we're really particularly proud of is the fact that the people from Ysgol Bryndaw come in on a monthly basis so that they can engage with the library service when we're closed on a Monday. So they come into Central Library largely because of their individual circumstances. They can often get overwhelmed if they were coming in on a day when the building was open to the regular public, I guess. And so we're now trying to build on that success with the kids from my secondary school as well. So those are as a direct result of the conversations that we've been having with directors over the course of the last 2 years to build that relationship.
When you talk of schools, do you include house schools in that as well? Or just mainly primary?
Our primary focus for the Summer Reading Challenge is the Portable primary schools, but we are definitely engaging with high school students, and David referenced the Ukrainian community where we did a whole host of work around that. Most of those kids were in high school. So we tend to have targeted projects that we're working with the high school kids on, but yes, high school is the focus as well.
Okay.
Just a comment, very good report, and I think you should be very proud of your Summer Reading Challenge and the results from it, and don't be shy about telling everybody about it. No,
any other questions? I've got a couple, if that's okay. Page 10, performance against the Welsh Public Library standards says that we've met 11 of the 13 standards, partially met 1 and did not meet 1, and then of the 7 quality indicators, only 3 were fully met, 1 partially met and 1 not met. So I'm not sure where the other 2 work out in that maths. But I just sort of wondered which entitlements, core entitlements were not met, and what's the sort of plan and time scale for meeting those ones we currently don't meet.
The core entitlement we didn't meet was this related to the strategy, so we're hoping now with the timetable we've got, although the initial response to the this year's WPLS has got to be in next Monday, the 22nd. We say successfully taken it to scrutiny and we mentioned that in the return. And then that will be in place and published by the time the full response in September. The one we've partially met is related to opening hours and accessibility, and in the same way as the quality indicator you have met, that's largely directly related to the resource available to us. And WPLS includes quite exacting targets around number of opening hours per capita that we just can't include in the resource.
Okay.
Well, that's where the strategy is looking at developing things like the pop-up libraries and expanding that access and positively looking to enhance the service that that's
And those are statutory requirements, so what are the consequences of us not meeting them?
I think we're putting a strategy in place and then has got a narrative of progress and addressing some of those that tends to head things off.
Okay.
I think it's concerned that we need to show government on this question, right, to provide assurance around everything else we're doing on the strategy is taking us from everything else. Plus December. Yeah. Yeah. December 25.
So it's the sort of Welsh government that are overseeing it. Exactly. Yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah, fair enough. And that, you talked about funding there, and obviously we had the consultation about reducing funding a couple of budgets ago, which the sort of report alludes to, I think, on page 11 about the petition, the 3,000 signature petition and everything else. And then page 16 sort of goes on to say we're the lowest spend in Wales and frames that as really positive per capita. So page 16, lowest sort of per capita expenditure, less than half the average, and says that's cost effectiveness success. Is the lowest in Wales spend genuine efficiency, or is that underinvestment that threatens sort of service resilience and statutory standards, given we're not meeting some of the standards? And you've just said that we're not putting enough funding in to be able to meet things like the opening hours.
I think really we work very hard with what resource we've got, and it's been fed back, to be in the ahead and try and do everything we can. But there is just a point where opening a library for X number of hours costs X number of pounds, because you've got to have the building, you've got to have the utilities, you've got to have the staff and staff it. So yes, ultimately, if you're budgeting at a certain level, you can't hit some of those quality indicators. I
think it's a fair question, because I mean, if you look at libraries generally, I touched on it earlier, but if you look at libraries generally over the last 10 years, they've been meeting target, as governments cut back. And I think that's what you've seen. But I think what's being realised more and more is that, when you use the services that the libraries do produce, then you have a kickback on things like literacy attainments within your city and your youth, so that there is a payback. And I think understanding that now, yes, what's happened is that in that sort of difficult period, the staff have become very, very good at being innovative and being, working out how to achieve the targets that they need to do. But I think moving forward, we do need to realise that we need to invest much more heavily in our services if we need to, hit the very high points that we aspire to hit. So I think, hopefully there will be a change in that field.
Yeah, that's really important with the future generations lens, isn't it? When you talked about sort of young people. In terms of, is there an equality impact assessment of this strategy? Because there doesn't appear to be one accompanied by it. For a strategy, council strategy would normally have an equalities impact assessment.
We haven't completed one yet.
Okay.
So,
because this is due to go to cabinet in July, isn't it? You need one before we go to cabinet, I would presume.
Yeah, we will present that. Yes.
I think is really important because you've touched on, you know, the number of different groups of people that the strategy sort of supports and focuses on, and you know, the closure of the library sort of consultation a couple of years ago had always, I think, going to have a big impact on the elderly community around the Dufferin area, as I remember from sort of schooling at the time. So actually, an EIA is probably, or an EQIA, whatever they are these days, is yeah, probably really permanent.
We'll make sure that's not
I think that's probably it then. All my points there appeared very negative, but they were all sort of scrutiny points. I echo what the other councillors have said about the excellent innovation that you've clearly brought to the table there, and the passion that you particularly showed to the committee. So, you know, I thought that was excellent. So, but they were all sort of points that, you know, to pick up. And the councillors got all the nice points, so I don't know. So, any other questions from anybody? Yeah, wonderful. Thank you very much. We need to wrap up any recommendations. Sorry.
Budget. Only a few comments and recommendations. Committee may comment that the strategy be exciting and ambitious, pushing boundaries and keeping pace with changing expectations. Want to give thanks to members of staff at the libraries as well, and especially for the help and support of the friends at Strategaeth House. Councillor Bright's comment about lots of report focus heavily on digital provision. There was clear demand for physical books. The committee requested information on the accessibility of the library provision across Newport, including how far residents were from the nearest library on average, and your recommendation, Chair, that an FEIA gets completed before it goes through the Cabinet.
Yeah.
Other than that, was there any other comments or recommendations the committee would like to make about the strategy?
I think there will be one for me in terms of making sure that the funding, you know, for the Cabinet, really making sure that the funding is sufficient enough for us to meet our statutory obligations. That would be a recommendation I would make. So hopefully help you beat the drum when you go to Cabinet.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks all.
Yeah. See you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, all right.
Take care all. Thank you very much.
Cheers. Thank you.
Okay, we are then on to item 4, Scrutiny Advisor Reports. So I'll pass to you first of all, if that's okay for the actions.
Thank you very much, Chair. Just to update on the outstanding actions and outcomes. The outstanding outcomes we've chased up with heads of service and our managers as well, so we should hopefully get some updates on those outstanding. Those are completed now that we've marked. So Sam and I have just made a small update to the way that we present the actions and outcomes with colour coding. So we've got green for completed, amber is just for ongoing. So that could be for an action or recommendation, which could take a couple of months for it to be completed. Red is outstanding, so those are the ones that we'll be waiting for answers from, and those are the ones that we'll be continuously chasing up heads of service. Also, we've got Appendix B, the draft annual forward work programme for the committee. The next 2 agenda items will be the 6th of July and the 20th of July, which will be the service plan end of year reviews. The first one is for the place directorate. The second one is for corporate directorate. There's 2 current free dates at the moment, on the 15th of February and the 15th of March. So the committee are free to think about any certain topics that you'd like to be discussed at these meetings. Also, during the pre-meeting, we also discussed about creating an additional meeting for the 4th of October, which I'm going to send a placeholder out now. As always, the forward work programme belongs to the committee. You're free to chop and choose, add whatever the committee wishes to, as long as, you know, we can add value to these topics. Yeah. So there's anything.
Yeah, I'm just echoing the sort of conversation we had in the pre-meet really. We'll create that October date. We're due to have an update from the city centre placemaking plan. They presented that to us probably about 14 months ago, I reckon, 15 months ago. And the cabinet member promised to come back and update it, so it would be good to get an update in the autumn. And we talked about the people plan, which was a 5-year people plan, and I think we're about 2 years into that, don't quote me, and I think it would be useful to have an update on that as well. So
I think we said after Christmas, if I'm right, James. In between like Christmas and maybe because you sort of take the election on me. He said we're going for possibly match. I might be wrong.
We can say might be
well,
that's
what you said. I think it's down to us to tell them when we want to update it. Yeah.
That's fine. Then certainly request another officer's chair. Obviously, as we discussed during the pre-meet, as a finding from the Wales Audit Office, with the report and our engagement with the committees, what we're looking to do is diversify the way that we do our scrutiny duties. So, and Sam and I, we've spoken to the policy performance team to suggest the share our forward work programme to see what agenda items we can link to bring in certain stakeholders in to discuss. So, for example, one of the ones we were looking at was the Newport Live, possibly invite certain users that have used the gym services or the any other Newport Live services to give their shared experience of the services that we provide them. So we've made a table of all 4 committees with their agenda items just to see how they can be linked. So what I'll do, I'll send these out to the committee after the meeting. If you're happy with the proposed agenda items with those 4 committees, if you just let us know, or if you've got any suggestions on how we can better improve things or how we can involve the public more, we would take any comments on that.
As Mark said about this one, possibly being in a library and speaking to people.
Yes. Yeah, that's one of the ways we can look for as well. Yeah, if the technology allows as well, and there will be enough space if the members of the public would like to, join that meeting in person, then we would certainly look at which venues would be appropriate for certain agenda items.
Would members of the public be able to just come in when and as they please, or is that what they're looking at?
All scrutiny meetings are public, public that they can sit in the gallery here if they wish as well for agenda items, so they're more than welcome.
We have had members of the public, we've got one at the table, we've had other members of the public come in as well. So,
I'm just thinking of disruption with that, we got to worry about that.
Same as the council chamber, isn't it? Anybody can walk in and out when you're in the middle of a council meeting, we just need to manage that. Fantastic, thanks Neil. So item 5 is minutes of the previous meeting, which are in the pack. Is everybody happy they accurately reflect the meeting?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Next meeting.
The next meeting is about 2 weeks, the 29th, is it?
That's on the 6th of July.
6th of July,
yeah. That service plan and year reviews for the Place Directorate. So that'd be 4 service areas for that one.
Which one is that?
Chair, can I give my apologies for the 6th of July? I'm away that week.
Yeah, no problem at all.
Lovely, thank you.
Thanks, Jan. Anybody else for anything, any other business? Perfect. Okay, meeting closed. Fantastic. Thanks, everyone.